Hi, I'm James, and this is Groovebox Music Theory. Today I'm going to teach you how to make every major and minor chord on the keyboard, and then how to find those in the songs that you picked the chord charts for that you're learning and you're practicing with throughout these lessons. Each chord that you see on your chord chart that has a lowercase m next to it is minor. There's one exception, and that's if it says M-A-J, but otherwise, if you see like a C or a D, M, it's minor. So you can assume that everything that doesn't have a lowercase m is a major chord. And we're still ignoring anything that might come after that. So if it says CM7B5, we're only seeing the CM and we're ignoring everything else for right now. It'll sound very different than the original song, but I think it's easier to first learn the basic version of that chord and then learn the modifications of it later. So that's the approach that I'm taking. So if you've been playing along with your songs and doing your practice so far, you've probably noticed that if you play along to the original studio recording, playing the 1 and the 5 for a chord really blends in. But it doesn't really sound like you're playing the song, especially if you're not playing along to the recording. And at least in pop music, this is usually because the third is lacking. The third is going to determine whether a chord is a major or a minor, and they sound pretty different, and most people would say that they have very different feelings to them. So that's really the last thing that you need to learn before it starts sounding more like the songs that you're playing along with. It still won't sound fully like it, but it'll probably sound a bit more gratifying to play once you know your major and minor chords. So thankfully, all I need to teach you in this lesson as to how to find the minor third and the major third, and it's pretty simple. Let's go ahead and go to the keyboard and get started. Okay, so let's use what we already know from the last two lessons to figure this out. If we have a 1 and a 5, the 3 goes exactly in the middle. But what I taught you last time is that there are 6 semitones between the root and the fifth. So that means that there's no exact one note in the middle. You're either going to put the middle note with this gap of 2 semitones between the root and 3, or this gap of 3. And that is actually all that you really need to know. If there are 3 semitones, that's a bigger gap. So that means it's a major, bigger third. If there's only 2, it's a minor, smaller third. It's really that simple to find your third. If you have the root, if you count up 3 semitones, that means you're going to leave 2 between the root and the third. So count up 1 semitone, 2 semitones, 3. That's our minor third. If I counted up 4 and left this gap of 3 between the root and the third, then that's a major third. And that is all that you need to add to the chord to play any major or minor chord. One thing I want to emphasize before we move on, though, is that if we play a C major between the root and the 3, root 1, so 1, 2, 3, that's a third. But between the 3 and the 5, 3, 4, 5, that's another third. And you might notice that there is a major third here and a minor third here. But if I play C minor, there's this minor third here and a major third between the 3 and the 5. This isn't necessarily important for you to know right now, but knowing that a fifth is made up of a major and a minor third will help you in 2 more videos. So let's go ahead and do some chord chart examples. I'm going to start off with Bad Guy by Billie Eilish, and the chord progression is G minor, C minor, and D7. Now, when I say minor, that actually matters now. If there's a lowercase m after a note name, so if it says F sharp, then there's a lowercase m, and it doesn't say major, or M-A-J, that means minor. Otherwise, you just assume that a chord is major. So Bad Guy is G minor, C minor, and D7. You'll learn about D7 chords in 2 lessons, and that, though, because it doesn't have an M after it, we can just play it like a major chord for now. And so this won't sound like the original song in most cases, but we're getting much closer now. So let's go back to that first chord for Bad Guy, which is a G minor. I'm going to go ahead and find G, which is my root, D, which is my 5, and then if I'm talking about minor, remember I'm going to leave a gap of 2 semitones between the root and the 3. So not playing this, not playing this, I am playing this B flat. C minor has a C as the root, the G as the 5, And then, just like we did before, let's leave this gap of 1 and 2 in the middle, and we'll play this third note. So remember, there's only 2 on the minor third side of things, and between this 3 and the 5, there's a major third. And then lastly is this D7 chord, which, like I said, we're just going to play like a D major. So let's find D. The 5th is A. And then major means, remember, we're going to have 3 instead of 2 in between that root and the 3. So we're going to leave those notes, and we're going to play this F sharp. We have our D major chord. So the chords for Bad Guy are G minor, C minor, and D7, or in our case, D major. Like I said, that still doesn't sound like the original, but in the next 2 lessons, we'll clear all of that up. Okay, so let's go to video games, which is a slightly more challenging chord progression. At least it was for me when I started. Let's start off with F sharp minor. So the chord progression is just F sharp minor, A, F sharp minor, A, C sharp minor, and D. So for our F sharp minor, we'll find F sharp, we'll find our 5, which is C sharp, and then for the minor, we're just going to not play this note or this note, but we will play this A right here. So we've got our F sharp, A, and our C sharp. So that's F sharp minor. We'll move to A major, which is A, E is the 5, then I'm going to leave this, I'm going to leave these 3 semitones unplayed, and I'm going to play this 4th one right here, this C sharp. So I would just play that again then. And then I would go down here to this C sharp to play that C sharp minor. Here's the 5. Oh, sorry. Leave this gap of 2 to find that minor third. And then we're going to play D major, which we just learned for Bad Guy. So that's D, A, and then there's that gap with 3 semitones in between the 1 and the 3. So put together, it'll sound. Okay, so go through your songs and play every major and minor chord that you could find. And like I just described here, even if you don't know what the rest of the chord means, just try to play either a full major or a full minor chord based on whether or not there's a lowercase m next to the root note. After you've figured out how to play the full chords, you might want to start adding in some rhythmic variations. So like I mentioned before, this could just be playing along to the original recording and playing a couple times per, measure or whatever it might be. And just trying to get creative and find ways that you can express yourself within those limitations that you currently have. You could also play what are called arpeggios, which is just a really fancy word for playing the individual notes of a chord. You could also play along with the song and play whatever of those single notes in whatever order you want. If I see a chord that says G minor, just like in Bad Guy, I know that I'm pretty safe to play what are called the chord tones. That's going to be the root, the 5, and the flat third. Now, if this had something else, like if it was a G minor 7th, there would be another note, so I'm not saying that every time this is going to work, but I'm saying that you're typically going to be safe if you just play the notes that make up the chord as single notes. So this is actually how Bad Guy is played, which I'll talk about more next lesson. But the bass line, for example, hits 2 of the chord tones. Meanwhile, the melody hits all 3 of them. And both the bass and the melody have an extra note added in, which will be for a whole nother series. But you'll remember that I talked about this flat 5 here. But other than that, the melody is just playing, the lead is just playing the root, the 5, and the flat 3, as well as this flat 5. It also does that when it moves up. I've already shown that before, but hopefully now it makes even more sense. What happens though if you play something different? Well, it's going to probably clash, and that might be exactly what you're hoping for. For example, if I play the C major, and then if I play, it's going to sound fine if I play the 1 and the 5. Then if I play this flat 3, it's going to sound pretty ugly though. but that might be exactly what you're going for. And in fact, I'm going to add in a couple other ugly notes, and hopefully you'll hear the difference it makes. So first I'll play just the chord tones, the pretty ones. Now I'll play some ugly notes. So I'm not saying that that was musical genius, but my point is that you can take these things that create tension and don't sound pretty on their own and use them to make the pretty parts sound prettier. One more exception I want to talk about is the end of the chorus of Video Games by Lana Del Rey. Typically, if you see a D major chord, you're only going to see D major and other forms of D major chords, but sometimes you'll see a D major or another major chord going to the same root note, but playing a minor chord. And that, to me, gives it a sort of heartbreaking feeling, like this heavy feeling. And so at the end of the chorus, she plays this D major, and then this D minor, and then the melody starts up again. That's it for every major and minor chord on the keyboard, so hopefully now you have an idea of where the root is, where the third is, and where the fifth is. And next lesson I'm going to talk about playing those in a different order on the same instrument and splitting those notes up between different instruments. Take your time practicing this one, because thankfully after this it's going to get really, really cool. So thank you for watching, and please let me know if you have any questions.